the dragon Smaug and its desolation. I am the great and all-powerful boss Bronze.
I am true Hobbit. And Smaug.
Not the Desolation of Smaug, but Lady Smaug. And this is another movie review. And if you couldn't tell, it is Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. And, well, after the first prequel movie, I said, man, I gotta see this movie. I mean, the sequel's gonna be freaking awesome. And you know what? I was exactly right yet again. But how right was I this time? Was I just a little right or a lot right? This is what we're here to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with the story. And that is True Backlash's territory.
Well, after the first movie started off with this hobbit, this wizard, and a whole bunch of ugly-looking dwarves trying to find some MacGuffin and some cave that would make the dwarves rich again. And so that's where this movie pretty much leaves off. But at the same time, the ring is starting to take its effects on Bilbo Baggins, the Hobbit. And more importantly, this movie's called The Desolation of Smaug, so you'll be hearing a lot about this dragon and then eventually get to see him in action. It ain't all pretty, folks. But you know, that's pretty much how it is. If you've seen the Lord of the Rings movie, you've seen them all. That's pretty much the gist of it. There's going to be a lot of Middle-earth terms that you probably won't understand, and there's going to be a lot of character developing story. But that's basically the plot in a nutshell.
Well, mostly stories. I mean, we do have the main story, but we got a lot of side stories in this thing. And I'm not complaining about that. I like all the side stories. They flesh out the characters. They're not just part of the dwarven group. There's some of the dwarves separate to distinguish each other from, like, one another. And we got the Klingon-like dwarf. We got the
old man
dwarf.
We got the Dr. Dwarf.
Brothers. You know, it's a whole game. And then, of course, Bilbo, he plays his part very well. Especially since the insidious One Ring of Power is starting to change him. Make him more bold, but still Bilbo. And he's not like Gollum yet. So that's always good. Blue, what do you think about the story so far?
Well, I find as Smaug, he was quite a gentleman dragon. Oh, so pristine.
No, that's character. I'm talking about the story.
Whatever. If I decide to do it as Smaug and tell you my details, I quite like to do it that way. If you don't mind. Yes, I actually thought that I loved the plot. I loved the storyline. I felt that as a connection point for backstory, for characters and points of reference. It was a good way to keep people who aren't familiar with even seeing any of the Lord of the Rings or any of those prior movies. It's a way to capture their interest. It was one of those types of kind of good old boys film where you get there, a bunch of buddies are on this quest, this mission, and ensue all types of unimaginable experiences, and took us on the journey too. I mean, it was really one of those things where, again, I look for movies to show me things that I haven't seen before. And I've seen some things before in this movie, but there were quite a few little interesting nuances that were fresh and new. And certainly, I felt that I was on an adventure. So I love the plot.
So you would think that even though someone may have not watched the first movie, you don't believe they would had to enjoy this movie?
No, I think if they came fresh and never saw any of the movies, they could very well have gotten into character. First, they may not have known exactly what was going on, but then once, as the story progressed, I think they start to realize, you know, a little bit more about each character, a little bit more about what their mission is, and a little bit more about the overall fantastic environment that they're in. And so that alone would be enough. And then that might be enough to make them delve further into the other movies. I actually thought that was one that, folks going for the first time would not feel totally lost. They would initially when it first starts out, because everybody wants to know what's next, what is this, what's it for. But I think that the story does help to solidify that as it progresses.
I agree. I like the stories very much, and the sub-story, the story within the sub-stories within the stories, I greatly, they weren't very long sub-stories, sort of like mini sub-stories or sub-storylets, but, they really did do the job, which is, well, tell the story, inform the audience what these characters are, that they aren't just with Bilbo or Oakenshield. They are their own people, and I enjoyed that rather nicely. But segue into the characters. What did we think about the characters this time around?
Backlash.
Well, let's put it this way. If you've seen the first 3 Lord of the Rings, and if you have, let me say this, if you haven't seen the first Lord of the Rings movies, these characters would be a little dry in spots, but definitely entertaining.
Really? I actually thought the characters in the Hobbit trilogy have more character than the ones in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
But let me finish. If you have seen the movie, most of the characters from the first 3 movies are pretty much standard fare. You know what they've been through in those movies, so you understand. Bilbo Baggins, to be fair, Bilbo didn't have a lot to do in the first 3 movies. This is his time to shine. This is his house. 3-peat, alright? But so that being said, obviously he's going to get a lot more character development. But when you compare him to his nephew Frodo, when you compare him to Sam, even when you compare him to Pippin and Merry, he's like more normal than the rest of those guys, except for insert spoiler here that makes him act a little different. But let me see, the dwarves though, they are different. If you haven't seen the movie, you'll like them because you'll like them because they're really different. They all got their own personalities, their own unique jobs. It's like the seven dwarfs from Disney, and only there's 12, 13 of them. I think during the one scene, the elves counted Bilbo as one of the dwarves, which is kind of odd.
Hobbit is pretty short.
Yeah, but let's see. If you if you have seen the movie, maybe you might even like him better, because let's put it this way: Gimli's a freaking beast from the first movies, but he's kind of the joke character. He's the comic relief.
He gave dwarves a bad name.
A little. It's kind of like watching Star Trek and then seeing the Ferengi. The Ferengi are these goofy, dorky, but semi-villainous race whose main mission in life is to acquire more wealth. And then you get to see characters like Quark, who is still kind of a butt monkey and a joke, but he's also very savvy, very intelligent. Or Rom, his brother, who's also a butt monkey, and he's quite stupid, but he's well above, he has more character than Ferengi culture allows him. And in fact, the characters from Deep Space Nine, all the Ferengi there, they're pretty good. My point is, Gimli, he's stalwart, he's tough, he's just this action guy. He's like, if you like 80s action movies, you'll love Gimli. But he's also kind of ignorant. He's also very brash, kind of. And John Rhys Davies does a great job, because I've seen him play as Professor Arturo in Sliders, and he's like Fraser Crane there. He's very, very intelligent, quick-minded, and here he's played this dwarf slob, as opposed to this movie. This movie shows all these dwarves are not like the Ferengi. They're not all joke characters, And when you get to see Oakenshield, you realize that this guy means business. He needs to reclaim his kingdom, his life, and get it all back. And In fact, there was only really one joke character dwarf out of them all, so much props to how they did the dwarves. Gandalf, didn't see the movies, you'll be intrigued. Seen the movies, you'll be disappointed because you didn't get to see a lot of Gandalf this time. There was not a lot of screen time. They set up something very important. It was insert spoiler here. So you know it had to be done because insert spoiler here. But at the same time, because doing what he did, he split up from the group and he eventually insert spoiler here. So you don't get to see him for the rest of the movie. And it's like, come on, one more time. Let me see him one more time. Part of us came here for Gandalf. I came here for the experience, but you know, Gandalf is very popular in this movie franchise.
I wonder, actually, was that him separating from the group in the book or not in the book? Because it's been a while since I read the book.
That's the thing. The Hobbit is one book, and they're just expanding out all these filler or these in-canon scenes to make sure you have 3 movies worth of entertainment.
Yeah, but I still don't know if him separating from the group was in the book or not. If it was in the book, then we can't really complain about it. Right. If it wasn't in the book, then yeah, they might have missed the boat on that one, but
Can I talk about specific elves?
Sure, why not? Well, yeah, it was in the trailer, so go right ahead.
All right. Evangeline Lilly plays this new elf. I'm trying to think of her name, but she's kind of looks like that character Brave from that Disney movie.
With better hair.
With better hair. But she's kind of like a tomboy, but she was raised by...
She's the captain of the guard. I remember that part.
Yeah, she's the captain of the guard. She was raised by Legolas's father, who happens to be the king of this elf group here. And of course, Legolas is back. Legolas actually feels just as beastly as he was in the first 3 films, but it's sad because you can tell they didn't use CG on Legolas at all because Orlando Bloom's age is betraying him.
Really? I didn't see that.
He looks a little older.
I didn't see it either. I mean, you probably are right, but I felt that what I saw of him on screen did not give pause to him being older to me.
I think it's more just physically his face. It's different, you know.
Really?
But I mean,
I'll be honest. The only thing I noticed about that guy is just how many things he was just slaughtering.
Oh yeah, he was
every time when he was on the screen. He was just like killing 5 dudes every second.
Oh yeah,
I was very impressed.
Oh yeah, look, Legolas was awesome in this movie. They made him seem pretty good. And Evangeline Lilly's character, she was also very good. Wasn't as nearly as awesome as Legolas was, but she was pretty good. You know, she played her part well. I can't say it because more spoilers but she touched your heart for what she does, and I really can't say more, but I watched an interview where she had with the Daily Show and with Jon Stewart, so I kind of get the idea. I know what's going to happen with her part of the story, but I can't say more than that. But yeah, the elves were pretty good. The dwarves were pretty good. The villains, I gotta say, except for Smaug, they were pretty underdeveloped. But that's just me. They were good for villain fodder. The spiders were pretty good, but they were kind of out of one-track mind. But
I like to just add to that real quick is that I like how the One Ring had new powers in this movie.
Oh yeah, I like that too.
Oh, you took my thunder.
Sorry.
I was hoping nobody would say it.
Yeah.
But go ahead, elaborate on
You can elaborate.
it. That's okay.
No, I took it. You can elaborate.
Well, I wasn't going to go and do too much on the spoiling thing, but I was just going to say, I thought for this moment, one of the characters in the whole episodic kind of thing that got some more depth was the ring. I mean, I thought it was pretty neat that the ring could do some stuff that you didn't see in the other movies. And I thought that even to the whole introduction of, the ring being this is the first, or this is a prequel per se, that, the precious was something that even others who didn't hold the ring seemed to pick up or take notice of. You know, I find Smaug noticed. I find the elf noticed. You know, they kind of knew something was there. Something beyond what they could see. Not even just the fact that, you know, the character truly disappears when in possession of the ring, but the evilness or something about the ring was sensed by certain characters. And I thought that was pretty defining. You want to add something to that, though?
No, I think you wrapped it up rather nicely. In fact, I had to bite my tongue from spoiling it. Spoil some parts, so well done. Well, as for the characters on my end of the things, I gotta agree with what Backlash said, except for the fact that Bilbo and it was lesser than the hobbits from the Lord of the Rings. I think Bilbo had a little bit more personality. I mean, when I really think back on it, I mean, the only other hobbit who had as much as personality as Bilbo was Samwise Gamgee. Sam was loyal in those movies. He was courageous. He had almost sort of like a bodyguard sort of mentality when it came to Frodo. But Frodo, he was always getting hurt. He had this doe-eyed. I swear, in the Lord of the Rings movie, when he was saved by the elf chick, he was wrapped up like a little baby. I just didn't get that part. And I said, you know what? Yeah, sometimes I wish that Sam was the hero of that story, because he definitely had his ears on right on that one. And Bilbo is now taking that role that Sam started for the Lord of the Ring movies, and I'm glad. He's definitely picked up this game. He's not quite afraid. He's more willing to stab an evil thing in the back or the heart or whatever, take it down, and I appreciate that, because these things are seriously trying to kill him now.
I actually couldn't agree more there too. And I also feel that, you know, as far as, you know, Sam and Frodo, they were endearing. You know, they were the kind of characters that you know, they pulled at your heartstrings. I didn't get that feeling from Bilbo. I kind of felt that, you know, he was a good character and he did his role very well. And he was more of a self-discovery and self-amazement, and, you know, his ability to do things that he never thought he could do. I think that this is kind of a coming of age for Bilbo in this movie. But I also thought that some of the characters, I agree with Backlash on the villains, I think they were a little underwhelmed. I don't know that they clearly defined villains. I mean, we knew that these bad guys exist, and they truly do. And they do pack a punch, and they are kind of, you know, like, you know, snarling dogs like in the night. But, you know, they talked about having this mission, and they talked about their boss, but I don't really think they really did a good job at bringing that to light. There still was this big question mark as to what it was. And then, you know, I don't want to do spoiler, but there was a little bit of an introduction to some origins of this spoiler. This is something that Gandalf went to go take care of. And then Smaug. Smaug, to me, was done very well.
I agree.
I think Smaug he got screen time, and he was done very, very well. I mean, there was nothing about him I didn't like.
Yeah, especially since he was done by the voice of the new Khan!
Yes, absolutely.
Cumberbatch.
Absolutely.
Smaug was an intelligent villain. I liked it. He was kind of affable, at least. You know, I mean, we're going in with Bilbo. We never really had to deal with this dragon. Not like the dwarves did. Not like the people of the lake town did. You know, so it's like, I mean, all we have to know is we be scared. And when he went inside to meet the dragon, you still got to be scared. But he was talking to him, having a little banter with him, a conversation. He was being polite. You know, he called Bilbo a thief, but other than that, he was just trying to say, hey, what are you doing here? He was just so smart. You know, it's like I know It's like, what are you doing here, thief? I'm not here being a thief. Yes, you are. I can see what you're doing here. I know what you're doing. I can see that right there. You know?
And don't think you're going to save yourself by flattery.
Yeah.
I thought that the dialogue was quite unexpected for him. I did not,
No, I didn't think he would talk.
absolutely didn't.
Oh, I knew he was going to talk.
Did you really?
Dragons talk, you know. They don't just roar and spit fire. If you ever played Skyrim, you know dragons can talk. But, you know, I have to agree with you guys yet again. I mean, the villains in the movie, except for Smaug, really didn't have a presence. But again, if you really think about it, did they really have a presence in Lord of the Rings? Except for the lighting eyeball and maybe that evil wizard.
Sauron and Saruman. No. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't really, except for those two in the Lord of the Rings movie, they didn't really bring, the other villains were just like here and they're evil and, you know, that's it. I didn't get anything from that movie, and I didn't get anything from this movie. And sometimes when I just saw the character Smaug, I think I wanted him to be the main villain of the whole series, because he was definitely imposing. He was smart. He knew what he wanted, and even at the tail end of this movie, which you should see to see what I'm talking about here, he was definitely has staying power. You know, what do we get from Lord of the Rings? Just a giant flaming eyeball. It's intimidating, but that doesn't make me think like, oh yeah.
That was one of the things I gotta say. You know, I agree with that.
Yeah, so you know, that's just my thought on the matter.
But I thought there was just the sheer numbers and the sheer tenacity and dominance of the beings before in previous movies that made them feel like they had a little bit more substance than what we got from them this time. I do say that the chick,
Which one?
The elf chick,
Mm-hmm.
that I was really impressed with her role. I thought she did an outstanding job. I mean, you know, in terms of her as an actor, not really that big of a deal. She was good, but I have to say that her character, her dynamics that she played, you know, her physical, abilities within the movie were just fabulous. I thought she did a really good job. And surprisingly enough, the book did not write a role for a female in that way. And this was something they developed for the story of today. And I thought they did a great job with it. She didn't appear to be someone who was just a female femme fatale.
That would have been a generic thing, but she definitely had a heart. She had a soul. I mean, she could do some damage, but there was always reasoning. She just didn't say, "I'm a BA, I'm hot, get out of my way."
Right. I'm just a love interest.
Yeah.
I'm just pretty.
Yeah.
I'm mystical and magical.
Yeah. I like my heroes to be a little one-dimensional and BA, but I like my women to be multi-dimensional and still be BA. Otherwise, they're not interesting.
And some depth. Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's just me. Anyone else got something to say about the characters?
Well, you know, I gotta say, you know, girls, go to the movies just to see Legolas alone.
There was
speaking.
You definitely like your blondes, don't you?
Well, you know, I gotta say, I do like blondes, but I never thought about it that way. I like all kinds of good-looking eye candy. It could be wrapped in pretty paper. It could be strawberry. It could be vanilla or chocolate. I like it. It's sweet.
I'm not gonna even question what the strawberry means, but whatever.
There's two or three other characters that are important to this story. One character is a walking spoiler, but let's just call him the riverboat captain. And then there's the person that runs the town, the lake town, who's this foppish, nebbish, kind of overbearing leader. He's kind of a joke, but he does have control of the power in the town.
Yeah, I'll give him credit for that. Even that guy had more personality than the leader of that one big empire town in Lord of the Rings, you know?
Agree.
that guy who flung himself off a cliff or something. I don't know. That guy was a real mystery to me. But this guy I can understand.
I think we're going to see more of him too.
I think so too. He might die, but yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move on to what we really liked about the movie. I'll start this one. We're just to say, like, pretty much everything. This movie really carried over from the first movie to this movie. Oh, it's very seamless. The characters we talked at length are great. The story we talked at length are excellent. The background, beautiful. You know, that made me feel. But I really liked the movie. The Desolation of Smaug has very few missteps, which I'll address in a second. But who else wants to tell how much they really love this movie? Backlash? Blue?
Well, I gotta tell you, the movie, I think it really did win me over. There's really not much I could really complain about it, except for, other than the villains in this movie were kind of disappointing. Smaug, except for Smaug. Smaug was very good, and I guess that was the point. The heroes were pretty decent, and I feel that it was running on all cylinders. There's not much else I can say about it. I pretty much liked everything except for the non-Smaug villains.
Blue?
Yeah, I really liked it too. I thought the movie was an awesome movie. I think it carried your imagination to places that, you don't often get to see. It's kind of one of those things where you were immersed in the fantasy and everything seemed to be very real. You connected with most of the characters. You felt like you kind of knew them well. You got a chance to anticipate things, and you got a chance to connect the dots on a few things that were unclear. This being a prequel, it did attempt to do some backstory, and it carried it off pretty well. Overall, I think that this is a movie that everybody in the family would enjoy, and it leaves you wanting for one more. So I really did like it.
Well, we obviously love the movie, but there's parts that we didn't like. Maybe. I know that Backlash said that he didn't like the what characters again?
Just the one that mentioned the villains, the orcs. They're like the dark elves from Thor all over again. I mean, Malekith was a better leader than that boss orc. That boss orc was just a thug. And he said, "Hey, identical thug, you want to do some work for me that I can't do myself for some reason? Yeah, I'll do it."
I mean, we almost look like each other. I have to agree. The villains that weren't Smaug could definitely use a little work. Another thing that I would have to complain about, and this is not exactly something I would call a bad thing for the movie, but it's just more of a personal preference on my part, is that, was it just me, or did the dwarves seem a tiny bit less awesome than they did in the first movie? I mean, they were, they did dwarves do, but I wanted to show them, really kicking butt and taking names.
I don't know. There was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
There was part of it. I can't explain a lot of it, but that water scene, the waterfall scene.
We'll just call it the codename water slide scene.
The water slide scene. That was very impressive.
Yeah, but if you think about it, the elves were there in the water slide scene, and they were like almost screen hogging the whole time. Plus, every time they're on the screen, they're doing something awesome or killing something awesome. And even the human, I will just leave that part. But some of the human scenes are also pretty awesome.
Yeah. And
you know what? And of course, Gandalf, being the master wizard extraordinaire, was always doing something awesome. Mm-hmm. But the dwarves, in their scenes, they do what dwarves do, more or less, but I don't know. I would have liked to see more fighting scenes, more action scenes where them showing off their awesome beards, like Daniel Bryan, just doing stuff crazy, incredible. Mm-hmm. But that's just me personally. What do you say, Blue? You got any bad stuff for them?
I'm sorry?
You got anything bad for the movie?
Yeah, there are a couple little small things that I think that I would have liked to have seen a little different. Like, I love the dragon, no question, but I would have liked to had a little bit more oomph from some of the villains. I think we mentioned that a little earlier. I also would have liked to have had a little bit better ending. I thought the ending was meant to be open-ended, but I would have liked to have had just a little bit more of an ending. And then I think that overall, I think the dwarves, they were all good, but I would have liked to have seen more of them as fighting. I think they showed the dwarves very resourceful in the movie, but I think I would have enjoyed to see them more of their fighting Viking type style.
That's exactly what I said before.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. And the ending, I sort of loved the ending, but a lot of people didn't. It was
Soprano-esque.
It was very Soprano-esque. I laughed my head off on the Soprano ending. And this ending, I sort of saw it coming, but not really.
You know how I feel about those
endings. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So I think, too, I would have liked to have seen... overall, I love the elves. Don't get me wrong. The elves just lay me out. I think that I enjoyed them. But, we got a chance to see Orlando Bloom and the female character, the elf, doing their thing. But a little bit of the king, but not a whole lot else of the elves were in the movie. Kind of just highlighted those three, and the rest were kind of like CGI blurs flashing in the background.
I wanted to see Hugo Weaving again.
Yes.
I wanted to make my Mr. Anderson joke.
Yes, I would have loved to have seen him, even if it was just for like a 5-second, well, no, maybe a little more, maybe about a 5-minute little dialogue.
Yeah, or something like that.
I don't know if this is before he was born or how that works.
I guess.
Right. I missed him.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I watched something called Honest Trailers, people. You probably know it from YouTube. They're basically, long story short, explained that the people from the Hobbit movie, a lot of people from the first Hobbit movie, weren't in the Hobbit book, like Frodo. Frodo wasn't in the first Hobbit book.
No, really? I would have never have guessed that Frodo, a character who was not yet born to be alive in this continuity timeline, would not be in the movie unless in flashback versions.
Exactly. So they could have found a way to get Hugo Weaving in, I think.
I think so.
I mean, especially since elves live like practically forever. Come on, guys. That's nerd 101.
Yeah, that's like 600 years and then some.
Yeah.
Keep on rolling, But I think all in all, I think everything was done pretty well in the movie. There were those drawbacks that I mentioned, and there's still a couple more that I don't want to talk about because they will come across as more or less spoilers. But I don't. Those are more nitpicks than true gripes. But yeah.
So basically, let's give our rating. I'm gonna have to give it a platinum pass of perfection because it's an all-around entertaining movie, very few flaws, and worth your money to see it in any way you like to see it.
I agree. It's a platinum pass, I mean, again, you got some mindless villains, but, Smaug did enough for all the villains in the movie, okay? And, honestly, everything else clicked. There's few things to get mad about this movie about. I'm pretty sure some other critics might find something, but I just can't. Sorry.
And that was the one more thing. Not one more, but one of the other pronounced things. Gandalf could have had a bigger presence in this movie. No question. But anyway, I think I got a platinum pass going on myself. I think overall, from my observations on all of those things, they were really all nitpicks, and they truly were. Overall, a very good movie. If you would have included those things that I've mentioned, you really wouldn't have made it that much better. So I give it a platinum pass.
Yeah, and I if I was a betting man, I say that Gandalf would just show up at the end. He'll make up for it.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to have an expanded role and then some.
So yeah, The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug is a winner. So go see it right now, and if not now, then in the nearby future. And if you already seen it, watch it 5 more times.
Take the kids.
Take the kids.
They'll love it.
They'll love it. They really will.
Oh, video game. It's okay. You mentioned that you kind of felt Ron's that there was a good opportunity there.
Huh?
For a video game. You said this could really make a good
Oh,
video
you know they're going to make 5 video games before this review comes out. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm already seeing Smaug epic level, epic boss, elite boss in the Lord of the Rings MMO coming real soon. He'll come back from the dead somehow. I don't know. But for now, this is the one true OmniGamer's Boss Bronze.
This is True Backlash.
And Blue.
Saying, look out, it's Smaug is attacking! He's attacking! Oh, why? Oh, why? Ooh, ah!